Funny Feuds is an ongoing series where we talk about the behind the scenes battles of the people that make us laugh. In today's episode, we're talking about Eddie Murphy and Bill Cosby. Eddie Murphy and Bill Cosby have a lot in common. They were both two of the biggest comedy juggernauts of the 80s, having huge hits both on television and in the theaters. In 2002, when they were making a movie remake of Bill Cosby's hit series I Spy, they cast Eddie. Eddie Murphy won a Mark Twain Prize for American Humor. Hey, so did Bill. That'll be important later. Both have had their careers destroyed by sex scandals, although Eddie's was obviously much less serious than Bill's. By the way, during both of those scandals, they both happen to have the same lawyer, Marty Singer. Another thing Eddie and Bill share is that the two have spent almost 40 years pretty openly disliking one another. The public got their first glimpse of the feud between the two in 1987 when Eddie Murphy released his stand-up special Raw, which would spend several years holding the record of highest grossing concert film ever. In the special, Eddie talked about a call he received from Bill, who at the time he had never met or spoken to. Bill was known at the time as America's Dad, and during the call, Cosby chastised the young comedian for having material that was too offensive and using language that was too harsh, saying that Murphy was setting a bad example for his children. Eddie closed a bit by making light of the phone call and sharing a conversation that he had with fellow comedian and legend Richard Pryor.
I was pissed off. I was so mad, I called Richard Pryor's house up and said, yo, Richard, Bill Cosby just called me up and told me I was too dirty. And Richard said, the next time motherfucker call, tell him I said, suck my dick. I don't give a fuck. Whatever the fuck make the people laugh, say that shit. He said, do the people laugh when you say what you say? I said, yes. He said, do you get paid? I said, yes. He said, well, tell Bill. I said, have a Coke and a smile and shut the fuck up. Good. Jello pudding eating motherfucker.
Although Eddie made light of the situation, it may have hit harder than he let on publicly. His fellow SNL cast member, Joe Piscopo, said in an interview that he was there when Eddie got the call from Bill, and that Cosby was Eddie's hero. When asked what he could remember about the call, Joe said, I was in my office. Eddie walked in so devastated. Joe said that Eddie told him, Cosby just called me, man. He railed me for being too dirty. He railed me. He yelled at me for like 20 minutes. Recently, Eddie Murphy expanded on his relationship with Bill on Jerry Seinfeld's talk show Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee. He explained that when he was young, he felt singled out by Cosby and described Bill's attitude towards Eddie in particular as shitty and mean. In the first episode of the show's 11th season, Jerry and Eddie sit at a table at the Improv Theater, and Eddie mentions that he felt that other black comedians, especially Bill, were threatened by Eddie being the new thing. Jerry ponders as to why Bill felt that he had the power to try to force Eddie to perform the way he wanted him to, which Eddie chalked up to simply being a case of Bill's ego. Jerry said that at the time he felt that Cosby was out of his mind for making such requests. In Bill Cosby's defense, which is something you probably don't want to say much these days, he said in 2010 that the original conversation that started this public beef didn't go down the way Eddie Murphy said it did in his special. Bill said during an interview with the Tampa Bay Times that he had called Eddie to discourage him from bragging about how much money he was making, and that Eddie is a liar. Bill says that he was just trying to warn Eddie after he overheard from staff at a club that the young comedian had thrown his wallet down on stage and told a heckler to look at how much money he was making. Cosby says that he told Eddie Murphy, people are going to look at you and they're going to say, okay, I don't like this guy because he's got money and he's making fun of me. Bill said, this is not smart, but he just did not appreciate my telling him that it was wrong. Bill was also quoted as saying, the call to him was not about cursing. I've heard people curse. I mean, Richard Pryor is my friend. So what am I going to tell him about the cursing? That seems to be at least partially true. In the episode of Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee we mentioned earlier, Eddie mentions a disagreement regarding an event where he held up his wallet while having a back and forth with a heckler as one of the things that Cosby took umbrage with. Eddie said that Bill then told him that he should come to Atlantic City to see Bill perform so that he can see how it's really done, which shocked Eddie. Speaking of Richard Pryor, he was in attendance in 1989 when a charity softball game was being hosted between the cast of Eddie Murphy's movie Harlem Nights and Bill Cosby's movie Ghost Dad. Jeff Kravitz, the photographer who shot this picture, said that he wanted to get one of just Bill and Eddie, but he had to settle for the two surrounded by fellow legends Red Fox, Sidney Poitier, and Richard Pryor. This was the closest together that he could get the two throughout the entire event. Kravitz observed that they clearly did not care for each other. The feud went pretty quiet in the 90s and the 2000s, at least partially due to Eddie getting swept up in a scandal in 1997, where police caught him with a transsexual prostitute in his car. When he was caught, Eddie's publicist insisted that he was just being a good Samaritan and giving her a ride home, which is a very likely and almost certainly true story, but the damage to his career was done. To Bill Cosby's credit, which I should really stop saying, I couldn't find a single comment, video clip, or article from him about Eddie Murphy getting caught up with the prostitute. By today's standards, the whole thing feels incredibly tame. I genuinely wonder how big of a deal it would be today for a celebrity to get caught with a transgender sex worker in their car. But in 1997 it was a big deal. Eddie still got work in voice acting and roles in kids' movies, but his career took a huge step back. Then, in 2014, Bill Cosby's history of being accused of drugging and sexually assaulting women was getting tons of media coverage. This was mostly due to a fan's recording of a Hannibal Buress routine, where he commented on Bill's history, going viral.
Has the fucking smuggest old black man public persona that I hate. This kid's on TV. Pull your pants up, black people. I was on TV in the 80s. I can talk down to you because I had a successful sitcom. Yeah, it was great women, Bill Cosby, so kind of brings you down a couple notches. I don't curse on stage, but yeah, you're a rapist, so... That shit is upsetting. If you didn't know about it, trust me, when you leave here, Google Bill Cosby rape. It's not funny. This shit has more.
SNL asked Eddie to come back to play Bill in a sketch about what was going on, but Eddie declined, saying that there's nothing funny about it, and that you're just hurting people. You're hurting him, you're hurting his accusers. Eddie elaborated, saying, I was like, hey, I'm coming back to SNL for the anniversary. I'm not turning my moment on the show into this other thing. It's possible Eddie knew how it felt having Tim Meadows play him on SNL after his scandal and didn't want to kick Bill while he was down in the same manner. I'm not able to show a clip of it in this video due to copyright, but Eddie's Good Samaritan remark was satirized in 1997 on the 19th episode of SNL's 22nd season. The sketch involved Tim Meadows portraying Eddie driving around at 4 a.m., picking up a group of transsexual prostitutes and performing Good Samaritan acts like mowing lawns and rescuing kittens from trees. The sketch isn't particularly kind to Eddie, who already had a bad relationship with the show due to David Spade making a joke referring to him as a falling star the year prior. Kenan Thompson ended up playing Bill on SNL that night, and Bill publicly thanked Eddie for making the decision not to play him. 2015 wasn't completely without jabs though. That same year, Eddie won the Mark Twain Prize for American Humor. He asked some questions about the status of Bill's award during his acceptance speech.
But that still doesn't diminish how wonderful this is. It's a wonderful, wonderful thing to be included with some of my heroes, Richard Pryor and George Carlin and Carl Reiner and Lily Tomlin. Who else got this? Bill. Oh, Bill has one of these. Did y'all make Bill give his back? No, because I know there was a big outcry from people. They was trying to get Bill to give his trophies back. You know you f***ed up when they want you to give your trophies back. You want to give his trophy back too?
By the way, the answer to that question ended up being yes. The Kennedy Center did end up rescinding Bill's award in 2018. Then, in 2019, Eddie was mounting a bit of a career comeback and was scheduled to return to Saturday Night Live, as a host this time, to promote his new film, Dolomite Is My Name. This was about a year after Bill Cosby had been convicted of aggravated indecent assault. Eddie made a couple more comments about Bill's situation in his opening monologue for the show, and posed one more question. Again, copyright means that I'm not allowed to just show this clip to you. But Eddie explains during the monologue that he had just had his 10th child, and that he is now a boring stay-at-home dad. Eddie goes on to say that if someone had told him back in the day that he would be this wholesome father while Bill Cosby sat in prison, he wouldn't have believed them. Then, in his best Cosby voice, Eddie asks the audience, "Who is America's dad now?" This comment seemed to really set off Bill Cosby and his camp. Cosby's publicist made a now-deleted, scathing Instagram post saying that Bill had paved the way for black comedians like Eddie, and that it is sad that Mr. Murphy would take this glorious moment of returning to SNL and make disparaging remarks against Mr. Cosby. He went on to accuse Eddie of being a Hollywood slave, and that by attacking Bill, he was just becoming clickbait. This feels like more than a bit of an overreaction. I bet if you worked for Bill Cosby in 2019, you probably had more important things to worry about than a joke from Eddie Murphy. Sure, Eddie was being a bit petty, but the guy who had spent the past 32 years criticizing him for his public image was being exposed to the public as a monster. He had earned the right to be a bit petty. So is this the end of the feud? Yeah, probably. Bill Cosby's been released from prison, but he's 84, and I'd imagine we won't be hearing much from him again. But, while it lasted, this was one of the longest-running feuds between two of comedy's biggest figures.
Good night. Suck my dick. Bye-bye.
Thanks for watching. This is one of 2 videos in this new series being released on this channel today. Click here to watch the other one. Feel free to subscribe, as more are coming soon.